And please keep yourself on mute while Laura's talking. Feel free to use the chat, pop your questions in there, and we will aim to answer them towards the end or as we go. So if we are all set, over to you, Laura.
Thank you, Emily. Hello, everyone. I'm just scanning all your faces and names as you're joining, and looking for anybody I know. Not that many so far, but it's nice to meet new people. So you're very welcome. And can we do the old, let us know where you're joining from, where you're sitting physically in the world. I'm sitting in a town called Amersham, which is in the Chilterns, just outside London. And it would be lovely to know where you're joining from. I got to see a little bit of the registration list, and I know that it's not all UK today, which is wonderful. All right, Harrow. My husband's from Harrow. Nice to see you. Hatfield, West London, fantastic. Chorley, fantastic. Cheshire, oh, amazing. I'm just trying to read them quickly. Oxford, Ascot, Rickmansworth down the road from me. Hello. Yeah, Bristol, we have loads of family in the West Country. Great to have you. At Romania, yes. Daniela, I wonder if you were on my conference session for the ICF Romania last year. Cambridge, Dusseldorf, fantastic. New York City, yes, thank you. Thank you, wonderful. Wonderful, great to see all of you. I'm not going to be able to look at all of your faces, sadly, and also present at the same time. We have a large group today, which is great. It's great to have all these people and so much energy. First of all, I hope everybody can see my slide. If anybody, yeah, Emily is nodding and smiling, yes. Okay, good, just some pre-flight checks, that's good. So you can see I like color and I like energy, and the title of the session is Integrating Professional Coaching into Your Agile Coaching Practice. There's our website, futurefocusedcoaching.org. And you probably, when you registered, you probably found at some point some learning outcomes. First of all, to look at the basics, the definition of Agile coaching and the 4 competencies: teaching, mentoring, facilitation, and professional coaching. So I'll show you where professional coaching sits in that. And then I want to show you a couple tools that I tend to use over and over again that I find useful in doing the professional coaching piece. And I'll give some examples of how I use that, and then also bring it into an Agile context as well. And then knowing what good looks like, how we keep up our skills, how we develop as coaches, all of those things. Oh, thank you guys for putting your videos on so I can see you. Yay, that's brilliant. Okay, lovely stuff. You have probably guessed that I love this, and I do quite a lot of teaching. I need to show you a selection of badges. Sometimes these things become a competition, but I think these are the ones that are relevant to the presentation today. And so I really ought to let you know that I've done the work. I teach both the entry-level Agile Coaching, the ACC course, as well as the Advanced Enterprise Agile Coaching courses. Those are both IC Agile accredited courses. And I was the author of both of those versions that I teach as well. I also teach Agile Project Management and Agile Business Analysis. And I had a book published last year. If somehow you managed to peruse my LinkedIn profile or look at our website and you didn't know I had a book published, boy, I don't know how you missed it. Yeah, it's called Becoming Agile. And it's about a lot of the things that we're talking about today. And also, I've done my coach training and I do my professional development. So the Apex coaching body that I'm a member of is important to me. So those are the things that I think are relevant to the session today. And you've probably detected a bit of an accent and probably a bit of a cold as well today. I'm suffering from a little cold. So just a little bit about me personally. I do come from the New York area. I come from New Jersey, actually, from Bergen County, and people ask me where that is. Well, it's just sort of to the left of the Bronx, and I miss home very much. And but I also lived in San Francisco for a time, which is how I fell into IT. And I spent some great time this summer in the outdoors, which I try to do as much as possible. We had some great days kayaking in Wales. That's in Anglesey. that photo. And then also a couple of weeks in the French Alps. I bored Emily this week with my stories about the French Alps and all the great walking that we did. So that's a little bit about me. And I just want to start with this this quote. I looked at the registration list and I noticed a lot of you are in delivery roles and were probably introduced to the Agile Business Consortium through the Agile Project Management course. And so I thought it was a good place to start today. By the way, I won't talk at you for 45 minutes. I think that's a drag. And so very shortly, I'm going to ask you to say a few things in the chat about this philosophy statement from DSDM, that the best business value emerges when projects are aligned to clear business goals. Remember this, people who did the Agile Project Management course? Deliver frequently and involve the collaboration of motivated and empowered people. For me, the key words there from a coaching perspective are motivated and empowered. So I know we all know what the words mean, but I would love to hear from you again in the chat about why these are so important for agility. Or if we think about Agile project management, why motivation and empowerment are so important for successful outcomes in delivering projects, if you're coming from a delivery perspective. What's the benefit of having people that are motivated and empowered? Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Richard. Better decision making. Great. There's loads of benefits. Yeah, keep them coming. Wonderful. People who are impacting the project want the project to succeed. Absolutely. Oh, God, they're coming thick and fast. Hang on. Let me open up the chat. Creativity. More test and learn. There's my software developer. Thank you, Dan. Better teamwork. Better quality work. Better finding defects early. We don't get the flexibility or adaptability without motivation and empowerment. Fantastic, Dee. Thank you so much for that. Ownership, Robert. Yeah. Feeling accountable and wanting to do their best. Amazing. Yeah. Reduced churn. Wonderful. Thank you for that word from Lean Software Development. Yeah. When a team has autonomy, they hold each other to account. Absolutely. Absolutely. Lower risk. Absolutely, Claire. God, spoken like good delivery people. Amazing. I think we're here because we know that these things don't happen magically, that there's perhaps a role as leaders with a little L. You know, as Agile coaches, we're also leaders, aren't we? Because we're examples of behaviors and ways of working that we need to do to encourage people to work in this way. I think that's why we're here today, that somehow Agile coaching should have a role in creating this working environment. Okay, so far so good. Yes, looking at your faces. Oh, thank you. Bless you to all the people who have your video on so that I can see you. Because I know you'll wave at me if you have a question or you'll put it in the chat. Wonderful. So going back to a little bit of basics. You've probably seen this before. Also, people here who say they're Agile coaches probably started with something like this. The Agile Coach Competency Framework, created by Lisa Atkins and others. The 4 competencies here in the middle, the teaching, the mentoring, and professional coaching and facilitating are the 4 core competencies. And you probably also know that what we do as Agile coaches is consciously choose, is this the moment for teaching? You can't ask people questions to help them learn the Scrum framework if they really don't know. You know, that's an opportunity to teach. But perhaps some examples of what went well and didn't go well from your own experience in the past of facilitating successful retrospectives. Just making these up from experience. You know, perhaps that comes from mentoring. And then facilitating, we really mean groups here, don't we? A neutral process holder that helps a group achieve a specific objective within a set time frame. And that all goes back to the facilitated workshops practice from DSDM. But it's this professional coaching piece that it seems everybody wants to improve on, and people realize is the one that helps to create the sustainable change. If you haven't seen this before, I'll just briefly say that this piece on the top, the Lean Agile Practitioner, is something that we assume all Agile coaches have, that we understand the influence of Lean in Agile frameworks. We have a portfolio of different Agile frameworks to choose from, and can help our team or organization or client select from a whole portfolio of different approaches. And then usually when we come to Agile coaching, we have one of these three on the bottom. Sometimes people come from a software development background, and I have a bit of that, more than a bit of that. Sometimes we're coming from the business perspective, business value driven innovation and product development. And then sometimes we have an organizational development background, or possibly HR or something like that. So it's one of the three across the bottom. Excuse me, that's my cold. So far, so good? Cool, thank you so much for your nodding. I know that some people are joining the session today, while grabbing a sandwich. And thank you for taking the time out of your day to do this. So on to the professional coaching bit. Those of you who've been on a course with me before, or one of my workshops, know that I like to start with a definition, and then I like to go and break the definition. I just think that's fun. The definition of coaching from the International Coach Federation is probably as good as any as a starting point. And so what I'd like to do here is I'd like to also kind of ask you, while I'm reading the definition, to think about what some of these terms mean. The ICF defines coaching as partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires people to maximize their personal and professional potential. So you may think how you've worked in partnership or not, possibly as an advisor instead of working in partnership as an equal with people in the past. You might think of ways that you borrowed from models and approaches or metaphors from outside of the business world. I've frequently drawn examples of my constant evolution as a runner, a trail runner, to help create learning and expand people's thinking, using creativity to inspire people to maximize their personal and professional potential. But I think there's a lot more than that. I think there's a lot more than that in our context. And this definition mostly only addresses working one-to-one with people. It doesn't really look at organizations. And working with teams and organizations is most of what Agile coaches do. There is some one-to-one coaching, but predominantly it's working with systems, isn't it? So let's just expand on that a little bit more. Some of the things that I think good professional coaching is and is not are there on the slide. I think you can read them just as easily as I can read them to you. But there's definitely a difference. The difference is that we put our clients, teams, organizations, and stakeholders in charge of their own learning. We're more of a facilitator than an advisor. What we used to believe, and I'm guilty of this from the past as well, that by giving best practice and promoting best practice, we would be helping our clients by creating a shortcut for them. And then, of course, we have Snowden and the Cynefin framework to thank for helping us see that in uncertain and unpredictable business environments, like the ones we're all working in these days, boy, I can't turn on the news nowadays without feeling a little queasy. There really is no place for best practice anymore because the future is unpredictable. So we have to facilitate people to think for themselves, which is one of the ways that we get the speed that everybody wants in Agile development. When you ask someone, why would you want to adopt some of the Agile development practices, and they say speed of delivery. Well, I would argue that one of the ways we do that is by allowing people to think for themselves. encouraging resourcefulness. When people are allowed to find their own solutions, resources, they're able to move much more quickly than waiting to be told. I think you know this or you wouldn't be here today. So let's get on to the good stuff. One of the kind of tools that I refer to all the time is the Leadership Agility Compass, which was created by Bill Joyner and Stephen Josephs. And if you've not read their book on leadership agility, this is a great place for Agile coaches to start. This is about individuals. This is about teams. This is about people and organizations. And let me just take you through this. So first of all, there are 4 competencies. There are also 8 personal capacities included, but I think I'll leave you to read the book to find those out. First of all, we have context setting agility, which is understanding the complexity in the external business environment. You know, this is very much an outside-in approach. Here we're talking about the things that come bearing down on us in organizations with regard to changes in politics. I was just listening to the radio this morning, you know. If you listen to Radio 4 between 8 and 9 this morning, you got all of them, the political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental aspects from the external, the macro business environment that come knocking at our door, you know, whether or not we want any change. Thank you very much. And so the ability to understand the context in which the organization operates, it's important for every person. And as coaches, we have a responsibility, I think, to help people become more agile, but by helping them think about the influence of unwanted, unplanned change. There's also creative agility. This is about using techniques for seeing problems in new ways. It could be using models to approach problems, taking a model out of its usual context and using it to look at something in a new way. And engaging your teams to address business problems creatively. I mean, I think this has a lot to do with good facilitation. I'm a big proponent of really good facilitation. Yeah, and thanks, Mike, for your comment about there's still best practice in an agile world, but it's a little bit more meta. Yeah, there's good mindset about limiting work in progress, and someone mentioned churn earlier, and a lot of the lean principles. Yeah, that we might consider best practice now. Absolutely. Yeah, wonderful stuff. I'm really enjoying your comments in the chat. Also, more from Bill Joyner and Stephen Josephs. They said also for agility, self-leadership is important. This is about building the learning capacity, personal learning capacity to reflect and learn from experience. This is something that it just takes conscious practice to do. We think, oh yeah, I'm self-aware, but actually it's just something that, you know, you have to make a habit like everything else. Identifying strengths and weaknesses and developing new behaviors. Well, sometimes we need to do this by joining a peer group, you know, some kind of competency, agile coaching competency group that we might, you know, form in the organization to get help from peers and give each other feedback, because it's very difficult for us to see ourselves all the time the way other people see us. And then finally, stakeholder agility, building relationships with people that you need to get support for your initiatives from around the organization. And I mean, depending on what size and scale of organization you work in, that could either be a headache, in which case we actually kind of want to, you know, the temptation is to want to shut down some of those voices because it just takes so long to get anything done. But actually, by taking the time to consult more widely, we're actually heading off blockers and impediments to our initiatives later on down the road. I'm looking at your chat again. Oh, thank you, Abafemi. The more I practice, the luckier I get. Oh, just wonderful comments. Thank you so much. I would love to get a download, Emily, of the chat later, just so I can have a look at everybody's comments. These are wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, Karaman, yeah, sorry, but could we remove agility from this compass and talk about enterprise transformation? I mean, I think we're also talking about that because what we're doing is transforming organizations. Um, but I wanted to bring it back to the topic today about agile coaching. And so when we're starting to build our professional coaching toolkit on the X-wing, you know, the teaching, the mentoring, the coaching, and the facilitation. To me, this is something that I keep in the back of my mind all the time. I think about, is this person working in a creative way, or are they relying on their old solutions, their old tools, their old methods? Or are they able to relate models and approaches from other contexts and bring them in? Are they able to use metaphors? All of these things. Let me just have a quick time check. Yeah, great. Here's another one. Going out a little bit wider and looking at the whole organization. I like to use this approach called the 6 lenses of systemic team coaching. And I know that there's one or two favorite systemic approaches that Agile coaches are going to. I did my coach training at Henley Business School, and Peter Hawkins was a big presence and continues to be a big presence there. And so I learned his systemic team coaching, and so this is something I use all the time in my coaching, whether I'm working as an agile coach or as a professional coach. And this is about thinking about 6 lenses. And I look at how an individual does self-management. You can see an overlap here with the Bill Joyner approach from the previous slide. I think about whether the person's able to have healthy relationships at work. I think about the team and whether they have clarity of purpose, team tasks, that's lens 3. Also, team relationships. Are they really able to collaborate? Do they really listen to each other and build on each other's ideas? Are they able to disagree openly without that horrible silence that says something's wrong, but everybody's afraid to speak up? Also, stakeholder interfaces. There's lots of overlaps here with the previous leadership agility model. Building networks outside the team and across business silos. I mean, I know this is all sounding familiar to you. Also, the wider systemic context, the ability to sense and respond. So I find myself using this one as a go-to approach a lot when I am thinking and acting like a professional coach with my clients. Because it helps me remember the whole system and helps me look at my work from a relational perspective. So to me, this is very grounded in the relationships, the good communication, and the collaboration that we're looking to foster. I want to bring this into an agile context because that's why we're here. Here's a chap who I found on one of the stock photo websites. So it's nobody here, nobody that I know. And so here's the 6 lenses again. I think in an agile context, these are the things that I look for all the time as a professional coach when I'm coaching. The self-management. How do I live the Scrum values? Remember the 5 Scrum values? How about the 8 DSDM principles? How do I live those and express those? How am I examples of those? Am I really doing continuing professional development as a coach? And I'll say more about that in a moment. Or am I just faking it? You know, did I get the badge and then I'm off and running and my daily rate has increased? Or am I really doing the work on myself in order to be more effective? When I think about the interpersonal lens, I look for things like active listening, because for so long, you know, and I come from a software development background too, but for so long, we have been rewarded for expertise and how quickly we can provide an answer, a solution. You know, how quick-witted we are. But For me, moving from a consultant to really a coach was about this piece. I'm going to get my little spotlight. It's about suspending judgment to allow other people to think for themselves, and also checking my own beliefs about other people, which, whether I liked it or not, translated into certain behaviors and how I worked with and related to other people. So those were really big things for me as a coach. So I look for these things in myself as well as other people. Excuse me. And I'm just going to check the chat for any comments. Remaining curious about others and ourselves. Yeah, that word curious is a word that coaches use an awful lot, because there's a lot packed into there about suspending judgment, asking questions, inquiring, in order to facilitate other people to do the same. Being an example of all of those qualities that we want to see in other people. Yeah, fantastic. I'm loving your comments in the chat. Thank you. The team tasks. I mean, I think it's clear there are really clear links here with Scrum, which is about effective teams. Does the team create a sprint goal? Do they agree a sprint goal at the start of the sprint? How many teams that we work with actually just plow on with whatever was not done or planned or assigned to the team at the start of a sprint without thinking about the purpose that brings the whole team together to foster collaboration. Team tasks, thinking about the rules of Scrum and the process and practices, the 5 practices of DSDM. And the next lens, team relationships. When I think about team relationships in an Agile context, I'm looking at the quality of meetings. Meetings don't have to be horrible places where we're just trying to stay awake and look like we're not multitasking and actually answering email at the same time. They should be places where valuable work happens. It's the time when the team or a group is together. These should be places that are that create dialogue. So I look for the quality of meetings, whether people really feel that they have a voice, the quality of conversations. Are people working across purposes, or are they actually able to get a word in without being judged? Do they work toward a common goal? How are disagreements and conflicts handled? Those are all under team relationships. And then on the stakeholder lens, I think about engagement early and often. Change seen as something that's good. Thanks for letting us know that something's going to change, because actually we prefer to know it now than at the end of the project when we spent the whole budget. Thank you. A facilitative approach, and also the facilitative approach should be familiar to people who went on the Agile project management course. Right? Project managers are called facilitative leaders, also team leaders, facilitative leaders. And then also down there under stakeholders, it's co-creation. This is a word that you hear coaches talk about a lot. It's when we're able to have a meeting or workshop or a conversation that creates something new that was unexpected, treating all participants as equals. I'm sure you have your own definitions of co-creation too, and I'd love to hear them in the chat. And Mike has asked, are the examples things that we should endeavor to work on for ourselves? Yes, in order to coach, or are they also about what we are helping people around us to achieve? Yes, both. Thank you, Mike. It's absolutely both. In order to do these well, to facilitate other people to do these, we also need to check our own behaviors, beliefs, practices. Am I an example of this? How do I apply this in my own life? We need to build the muscle for ourselves to be able to do this effectively for other people. Yeah, it's both. Thank you for that great question. And they're all great questions. And then finally, the external business environment. Using PESTLE again, the political, economic, social, etc., to sense and respond. We call this sense and respond. There's something, and there are There are some tools, there's some great tools. Scenario thinking is one of them that I like, in order to understand if X becomes true in 3 years' time, what can we do now to get ready for that? What would we do differently? And I think that also comes under risk management. So I just want to pause there. I think we're doing okay on time, Emily. Yeah, fantastic, cool. So I'm just going to look at some of the comments in the chat. You guys are great. This is really fun. How important is it to think about unconscious bias? It's really hard. And if you can identify all of them, well, you're doing really well. We all have unconscious bias. And I mean, I think some of the ways we can check ourselves is by joining a peer group that, that is a safe place for us to bring some of the things that we're unsure about, and for peers to ask us questions about, tell me about how you handle that, kind of doing some co-coaching. Unconscious bias is present everywhere. Dee, thank you so much. This is fascinating. You're a charity CEO, fantastic. With a social work background, amazing. And your sector rewards these kinds of interpersonal behaviors, but conversely sometimes lack the architecture, that's a great word, to focus, and the focus brought on by the other dimensions here. So that was wonderful. Dee, if this is helping you pay attention to some of the other dimensions of how we actually create change and success in an organization, and the ability to be flexible and pivot, fantastic. That was the intention. Yeah. Most Agile coaching focuses on teams, but teams operate in an ecosystem, and teams are made up of individuals. So looking at the personal and interpersonal, and then the wider ecosystem, are all important as well. I've got one eye on the chat, so anything else, would love to read it and call it out. This is something I put together at the last minute, so apologize it's not as pretty as some of the other slides, but I promised something about how we get trained up and accredited and so on. This is the best I can do from my own experience, and this is what I've seen other successful Agile coaches do. It's a combination of getting some training in professional coaching that's independent of the Agile echo chamber, because when you start to speak to people inside the Agile coaching space, you tend to hear a lot of the same tools being dragged out. Some of them are great and useful, like Shuhari, the Journey to Mastery, which is very, very useful. But then others perhaps are used a lot, but not in a creative way. So to reach outside the Agile development space for additional training. Some of the things that I could think of off the top of my head are the university coaching programs. That's how I got my start in the professional coaching space. But there's also the AOEC that does a fantastic job. That's the Academy of Executive Coaching. And they offer the systemic team coaching course as well that I mentioned earlier, and other private programs. There are some favorites out there that I don't really want to mention, because I know you'll find your own and you should evaluate them. There's also Agile Coach training, and you perhaps could start with the ICP, ACC accredited courses from IC Agile. Have a look on their website for the training providers there. And they start with the X-Wing, the 4 competencies: teaching, mentoring, professional coaching, and facilitation. Then there's also the advanced enterprise Agile coaching course that looks at the whole organization from more of a systemic perspective. But the thing that I really want to emphasize here is the doing, the practicing, and the learning, and the falling on your face, and the people were arguing today, and I kind of lost control of things, and how do I keep, all these kinds of things that come up where you need some place to go. Professional coaches hopefully have coaching supervisors. Excuse me, and that's my cold coming through. Coaching supervisors, and you can do that in groups, or you can do that one-to-one. Usually a mixture is useful. We call that coaching supervision. Any continuing professional development workshops, how to bring in somatic coaching into your coaching practice, how to bring in art and drawing and creativity to unlock things. Creating a competency center internally. So I know some large organizations that have their own competency centers where Agile coaches get together, like a COE, a Center of Excellence, to support each other. Go to the community meetups and the conferences. Some of them are very good. And the accrediting bodies, the professional coaching bodies. I'm accredited by Apex. There's also the ICF, people like the EMCC, the ACC. There's about a half a dozen of them. But they all offer workshops and seminars, usually at a very, very low price for people to stay fresh. Just checking the chat. One of the reasons Agile development isn't taken seriously is the inability to come out of the Agile is the only way mentality. Thank you, Jenna. I haven't read the rest of your comment yet, but I know the paradox, right, is we're encouraging people to think more expansively and to come up with creative solutions. And yet there's still so many kind of religious people in this space that still want to fall back on that Agile is the only way. Regurgitating Agile taglines won't get you very far as an organizational coach. What a great comment. Or while coaching at the executive level, absolutely. And being able to speak the same language as people we're coaching will get us much further, much quicker. Absolutely. So meeting people where they are. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Val. A fan of somatic coaching, but it's difficult to get corporate clients to try it. Yeah, and there are some fantastic techniques that you can have a go at, practice in kind of a workshop or seminar. You could try it with colleagues in order to find the language and the way of adapting these kind of far out woo-woo techniques that will land in your organization. Constellations is a great one, where people physically move around a room to show relationships, to find out where communication's blocked. I mean, fantastic stuff. But if you did it in the way that some of the systemic coaching practitioners did it, you would lose people. They would think that they went to run around in the woods and sing. So it's great to go build your toolkit and try some of these things out, but then clearly you have to adapt them to the context, the organization that you're working with. Wonderful. What else? What else is on your mind? Just had a little look at time and we have a few minutes. Did I mention getting out and practicing? Doing the doing? It's one thing to know it, but it's quite another thing to go out and do it and then find out, oh, actually, I'm afraid of conflict. I don't like disagreements so much. I have trouble addressing certain things that team members want to talk to me about, all these kinds of things. That's my happy place, by the way, running through the woods. That's not me. I'm not as fit as that chap down there, but I love it anyway.
I have a question, Laura.
Go for it.
So in your perspective, or in your opinion, what is the biggest difference between a professional coach and an Agile coach?
Yeah, an Agile coach has
to
balance. Yeah, massively. An Agile coach has to balance these different kind of stances or competencies that sometimes actually what we're going to be called on to do is to facilitate a group or to teach some skills. Maybe people don't know what work in progress is, and we have to explain why it's so important to monitor and manage work in progress, why small batch sizes are important, and all those great lessons that come from Lean. Perhaps, people do want to find out what worked for you in the past, and then to be able to make their own decision based on some of the coach's experiences. So professional coaching is just one aspect of Agile coaching. However, there are some really powerful tools in there that, when used well, can really give people that boost forward, by encouraging the things like the motivation and empowerment, and encouraging people to think for themselves. Great. What other great questions do you guys have? Something Emily and I talked about was, we'd love to know what other topics would interest you in a possible follow-up session with me or someone like me on professional coaching, in Agile coaching. You could let us know in the chat. Emily's going to be monitoring that. And then ways to keep in touch. Well, there's my LinkedIn. You're very welcome to find me on LinkedIn. I love hearing from people. I'm an extrovert. I just absolutely love it. I get energy from other people. There's a discount code for my book that, if you go to the website, futurefocuscoaching.org, there's a link there to the publisher's website where you can use the discount code. And then also my business website. Sean wants some more concrete use cases. Yep, good call. Absolutely. And someone's congratulating Simon. I don't know who Simon is, but okay. Very interested in effective teams and resolving conflict. We'll put that on the list. Thank you. And then Emily has a feedback link for you in the chat.
Yeah, if there's no more questions for Laura, feel free to continue using the chat. And also there'll be in the feedback form, feel free to add any topic ideas you'd like for future sessions. On behalf of Future Focus Coaching and the Agile Business Consortium, I'd like to say thank you for everyone joining us today. We hope you found this session helpful, and you're able to take some learnings and reflections away with you. Don't forget, you can join the Agile Business community as a member if you're not already, and access more resources like Laura's on our website. And just a sort of a quick update, the Agile Business Consortium will be running the first Agile Business Awards Conference next year in March 2023. This will be aiming to advance business agility worldwide, and we want to use this as an opportunity for organizations to be recognized as examples of excellence within business agility. So there's several ways of getting involved. You can, your organization can sponsor, you can be nominated, you can nominate another organization, or you can join as a reviewer. So there's lots more information on the website, but just as an update if you haven't seen already. So without any other questions, just like to say a huge thank you, Laura. Thank you very much for your time. I hope your cold clears up nice and quickly.
Oh, thank you.
And a huge thank you for everyone's engagement within the chat. It's been great to see and for you to answer all the questions. So I hope that was useful. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.